So at the end of the last video, we were saving our work, right? And we saved it first as a Photoshop file by going to File, Save As, out of Photoshop. You can also do this out of Photopea. And the first thing, whether it's Photopea or Photoshop, you want to make sure that it has your name and then some description as the title. That it's navigating, saving to the desktop so you can see it, and that its format, the first time you save it, is a Photoshop format. That will save all your layers. This is what we call a working format. It allows us to go back to it. And then you say save, and I've already saved it, so it's going to ask if I want to replace the one I did. I do. I don't want multiple copies, right? And then I check my desktop to see it, and here it is. There's my PSD file. That stands for Photoshop document. I right-click it, and I click on the green, because that's my way of knowing how to easily find my working files, the ones where I go back to if I want to keep working on it. Next thing we do is we take that Photoshop file and we say File, Save As, and then we change its format. We keep everything else the same, but we change its format to JPEG. And JPEG isn't an option unless we save it as a copy. So we click on Save a Copy. It will add copy to the end of the name, and then we can change the format to JPEG. Just the usual JPEG, JPEG. You save it. I've already saved one, so it will ask to replace it. For me, that's yes. And then it will give you the JPEG options for how much memory do you want it to take up. This is why JPEG is so popular. It uses a pattern recognition algorithm to pretty much take a big amount of data and round it, to the nearest number. So you can decide how much do you want it to round it. And I would say anything between 10 and 12 is just fine for our class. But what we want to be mindful of is we don't want images that are significantly larger than 5 megabytes going onto Canvas. That's a big waste. So I might even just take this down to 10. And now it's only 1 megabyte. But this is what's called a loss compression. So you do lose quality on JPEGs each time you change them and save them. That is not true of your Photoshop document. Okay, now I can check my desktop and I see I have a PSD. I marked that green, and I have a JPEG. The JPEG is what we call an online format. It doesn't have layers. It's only good for showing on Canvas or online or in a presentation. So I'm going to right click and mark that orange, right? So orange means online. Now I'm going to go back to Canvas, right? And I'm going to go to the assignment, exercise 1, right? And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom because we've now done all these things up to this point, saving it first as a PSD, then as a JPEG. And now I'm going to submit my work by clicking on Reply and then putting my name, because we don't always go by the name that we have in Canvas. So please put your name, everybody. And then I'm going to upload my image. I can use the image uploader here, or I can just, on a Mac, drag and drop the JPEG right into the Canvas window. Now it's going to be really big, because this is made for print resolution. So once it comes in, click on it, and then shrink it just a little bit so it's about half the screen. And that's plenty. Then you hit Reply. And now I have submitted this assignment, right? And you have until midnight to submit something for this. And as long as it meets the requirements, that it's 5 or more sources of black line art, arranged in an original way into its own jumble, you will get 2 points for this exercise, this introduction to compositing. Right? But what if you want to play with it even more? So if you want to add texture to it, this is what I call the bonus finishing extra. And I demonstrate it here. This is a lot of fun. We're going to go back to a Google image search. So I'm just going to go to Google Images. Whenever you go to a new Google image search, it will clear all of your tool settings. So now it's not just looking for black and white or large. And what I'm going to search for are He-Man bed sheets because it's fabric, right? And I'll look for tools and I'll just make the size large, but I'm not going to make them black and white because I want something like this. Some vintage kind of fabric. So I'm just going to open these links in new tabs. See something like that? That's pretty fun. That's a better shot of it. And it's not huge, but this is big enough. I'm going to open the image in new tab that it will work for what I'm going to be doing. It's like wrapping paper. I'm going to save this onto the desktop. I can just drag and drop it on. Okay. And now I want to find some other examples, more than just one. So let's see. This is cool. Even if it's lower res. It's an old poster. Oh no, it's a bedspread. It's pretty soft, but that's okay. I'm going to save that and drag it on. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that as color and texture to cut my line art out of. Just like Arturo Herrera would make his compositions from coloring books, but then he would cut it out of felt and then hang it up on a wall. So what I'm going to do is open up my Photoshop file just by double-clicking on the PSD. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge all of these layers into one transparent layer. So this isn't as simple as it sounds. If I just say layer flatten image, then it gets rid of all my work. And that makes it so I can't individually delete from different layers or adjust them. So I don't want to do that. Command Z. Instead, what I want to do is hold down Option, go up to Layer at the top of the screen, and say Merge Visible. So if I merge visible while holding down Option, it will give me a new combined layer at the top that has everything in it from the layers underneath. Then I'm going to turn off every other layer, even the background white. Okay? So you can see it's all in this one layer now. Now I'm going to use the next selection tool we need to learn, which is the Magic Wand tool. And the Magic Wand tool is the bottom of this drawer. We do not use object selection or quick selection. We want to really control our selections. So we use the lasso and we use the Magic Wand. Magic Wand has some settings. The settings we want for this are 32 for the tolerance, and we want it to have contiguous unchecked. So what does Magic Wand do? Magic Wand selects pixels that are similar to the pixel you click. And if you have contiguous unchecked, it means those pixels can be anywhere in the image. They don't need to be touching where you clicked. So what are we going to click here? We're going to click on the white. And it will select all the white pixels in this one layer. Okay. Then what are we going to do? We're going to hit delete. And it will delete all the white pixels in that combined layer. So now, not on multiply mode, but on normal mode at 100%, we have only black pixels, or at least pixels that aren't white, right, showing. Now, what if some of those pixels are not that clean, right? You see all the gray there because they were a little lower quality than some of the other pixels. The next thing we can do, this is just being really, really professional, is we double click on the layer next to the title, not on the title, and it opens up what are called layer styles. And layer styles is going to allow us to click on color overlay, and we are going to replace in a normal mode at 100% all of the pixels that remain with solid black, which is all the way in that bottom left-hand corner. Now, it might not look very different, but now when I zoom in, you can see that all of them are solid. Whereas before I did that, they weren't. So if you have any kind of slightly gray, slightly soft edges, this will chunk them all up into solid blacks. Okay, now I'm going to bring in those colored textures. First, this one. Just going to drag and drop it in. It will come on top. And then I'm going to use the transform tools. I'll hold down shift. I'll just kind of stretch it so that it fills the space a little bit. Maybe I'll flip it upside down. I don't want it to be too recognizable. Well, I flipped it sideways. Let's flip it vertical. Okay, hit return. Now I'm going to cut these black pixels out of this source material, right? Out of that fabric. This is how I do it. I use the magic wand again. This time I click on the empty space. This is safer than to click on the black. And because contiguous isn't checked, it will click on everything that's empty, everything that used to be white. Then I'm going to go to select and say invert the selection. Select inverse, Command or Shift Command I. Now it's only selecting everything that's not empty space. So for me, that's only black pixels, but for you, that might be gray pixels, even some color pixels, right? Now, turn off the eyeball, and you'll see your selection is a cutout. It's like a cookie cutter. And selections move between layers. So now I can move to this layer, and now I'm going to cut that out like a cookie. And I'm going to say Command J to duplicate it, turn off that layer, and now I have that cut out from the fabric. Make sense? But just cut out of one fabric, if I put the white background behind it, it looks okay. It's kind of interesting. Let's do it from the other fabric. Same steps. Start with my black, go to my desktop, pull this one, and I'm really going to zoom in on this, right? And now I go to my combined layer. I'm going to use the magic wand, select on the empty space with contiguous turned off, select the inverse, turn that eyeball off, move to this new layer, turn that eyeball on, and hit Command J to duplicate it, and then turn that off. And now I have this bedspread. And I like those colors too. Now I've got two layers of them. And just like we were playing with compositing for our exercise zeros, our avatars, I can play with opacity, I can play with blending modes, and I can blend these two fabrics together to get something original. Like that. And I like it. I can also do other things because they're cut out. I have that at 41% on linear light, right? But I can also add things like a drop shadow behind it and then make that drop shadow a lot closer. So it looks like it's hanging on a wall. Like a fine art piece. So once you control the pixels all in one place, there's a lot you can do with them. I'm going to soften that a little bit. It's a little harsh. There we go. All right, now I like how this looks. Now this goes over and beyond the requirements. The requirements are for black line art, right? So you have to post the black line art one. But if you do more and you want to post it, what do? We say File. First, I'm just going to say Save As. I'm going to save it as the PSD because now it has all the stuff I had originally, but now it's got more layers with more options. Right? Nothing wrong with that. So I'm updating and replacing the PSD I had with this new PSD, still green. There it is. But I have to save a new JPEG. So I do that by saying File, and I'm just going to shortcut it really quickly here. Instead of saying Save As and then saying Save a Copy, I can go right to Save a Copy. And now I need to change the name. So instead of it being a Jumble copy, I'm going to call it a Jumble color copy because I don't want to replace my black one. And I change its format to JPEG to the desktop. Make sure I know where it is. This is another orange. So this is a second submission that's optional. Then I go to Canvas,